WandaVision episode 8, previously on. So I just watched that post-credit sequence, so we'll get to that in a minute. I actually even did a reaction because my spidey senses were going off the chart. I was like, yeah, let me see. They did, the little post-credit sequence last week. I was like, I'll watch through, let's see what happens. And then they were doing it. I was like, oh, I didn't expect it to be this guy. And then they showed him, he walked through. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be honest. I was like, there might be, this camera might flip around and I'll see the Fantastic Four. I don't know why that's in my head. That's the internet. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't know. But anyway, this was a good episode. It definitely, obviously, it completely abandoned the whole sitcom thing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we only have 9 episodes. So next week should be the season, I don't know, season finale, series finale? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think this will have a season 2. So I guess for this, it would count as the series finale. But I like the episode. We have... the very beginning, we get Agatha's backstory. We see that she's almost like a magical siphon. So I thought that was interesting where, it's like, oh, you perform dark magic and stuff like that. And so she's supposed to be killed off by her fellow witches, including her mom. And as she's being attacked, her magic basically turns purple. And so I think that they were kind of hinting that she was partly... headed towards the concept of becoming the Scarlet Witch. That was the whole thing where it was like, her even saying I can control it. I think that's what the whole point was, that they thought she would end up becoming a Scarlet Witch. And then she was kind of close, but she didn't exactly hit that barrier yet. But she was, she was just there. She was almost there. That's why she has a specific purple magic. They even show all the other witches, their stuff was blue, hers was purple, and then obviously, Wanda's is red. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And that was something that I didn't pick up until, by the end of the episode when she said that, and I was like, oh, that's why she was like, oh, I can control it and I can be good and stuff like that. And I think it was just the fact that they feared too much, and her deciding to kind of go into some of the dark magic. They're like, well, we can't really take that chance. We got to take you down. And that didn't work out for them so well. They ended up being crypt keepers. So, sucks for them. And then we get, kind of flash forward. We're back with Wanda and Agatha. And then we go through Wanda's backstory. And I thought that was really cool. I like the way they handled it. They threw in a bunch of stuff that I never considered but made perfect sense. Like them talking about the Stark bomb crash landing. And then it's we had to just stare at it for 2 days. And then them being like, oh, so you used a probability hex on it. And that's why it didn't explode. And I was like, dang, that's so simple, but that works so well because that's one of her powers. I mean, she has 1 trillion powers, but I was like, dang, that's good. That's a good one. That's one of her simple powers. There's a chance this thing won't blow up, and so it didn't. There's a chance that by the end of this episode, everything will be fine. And because she had those powers, which of course we found out that she was already a witch. So with her having those abilities, that's why they were safe that whole time. I will admit, this does lead into the question, are they going to possibly even touch the fact that, she has a brother who had super speed? Because I'm like, I know she came out as a witch, but her brother came out as a dude with super speed. So it's is there anything that just latent abilities that, and once again, they could easily have it just be, they're probably going to go with full on witch, especially considering the whole, technically, if you're going to be a mutant, your powers don't manifest until, adolescent, until, you hit puberty. But I'm sure there's some random case in the X-Men storyline at some point where somebody developed their powers before puberty, and it was just oh, this is kind of unheard of. They could easily throw it in, and I'd be like, yeah, who cares? Sure, it's an easy thing to just be it's an anomaly. She's already an anomaly as far as witches are concerned. So they could just do it that way. It's simple. They could just do it that way if they want to. But we go through her backstory, and the whole episode is just her growing up, and basically it's just all the trauma that we knew that she dealt with, but just seeing the aftermath of it, or seeing her watch, the Dick Van Dyke Show, excuse me, and it's okay, she's getting into it, and then just boom, I was just Jesus Christ, it just exploded, and she just flies forward, parents are dead, Stark bomb comes dropping in, and it's just well, dang, that was super effed up. We knew it was effed up, but it was just oh man, a TV, got my parents, kaboom, nothingness. So it was wild. And then we have what I think was probably the craziest part of the whole episode, which is her going towards the Tesseract. And, well, I guess it wasn't the Tesseract. It was, I guess the Mind Stone when it was wrapped in blue. I forgot why they did all that, but I'm pretty sure it was still technically the Tesseract. In his thing, it was just condensed down into orb form instead of being the full cube. So she goes towards it, and then it pops open, and we see this whole thing where it's the Mind Stone hits her and stuff, and then we see a version of her, which we still haven't seen, because I'm pretty sure that was her in her full, whatever they're gonna make her full costume for the MCU. I think that's what she was in, because it seemed like, she had like the helmet and everything. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it was like you could kind of get glimpses, but for the most part, it was just a silhouette behind like basically a beaming sun. And so that was cool. I was like, okay, that's very interesting. Like, she kind of saw herself in the future. That was really interesting. And then, of course, we see that everything she went through was instantaneous. Like, they play the video and she's just walking and it was just like somebody's like, bam, and she just got knocked out. And so it was instant. So they didn't know what was happening. And we got to see that her powers, basically, she was already a witch, and then she got hit with kind of just a dose of intergalactic magic, and then it was like, here you go. And so it kind of just, it jumped her powers up. I was like, okay, that's a cool way to do it. It's simple, but it makes a lot of sense. Then we get to see her and Vision together, and that was a really good moment. I like the line of what is grief if it's not love, kind of persevering. I was like, that's actually a really good line. I thought that was whoever wrote that was really good. I was like, dang, I never thought of it like that, but that was really good. They even had Agatha where she was like, huh, like she was playing it off, but she didn't. She was like, like, dang, that was good. So I like that moment for sure. And then we had a crazy moment, which shows they kind of answered it by the end of the episode, because I was like, there was definitely a that's not what I saw before type moment, which was when she went to see Vision. And so we seemingly know what happened. I was like, oh man, she came in and she took the body. Granted, this is a classic sword/shield move where it's like, this is what happened, and then they lie. It makes sense. It makes sense. But she goes in, and we think, all right, she sees his body. Of course, she breaks the glass and everything, and so she goes down and is like, hey, stand down, just let her see for herself. And she's like, I can't feel you. And then she left, and I'm like, that's not what I was told. That's not what I saw. Because what I saw was she went in, buck wild, stole his body, and just like left the place and left it destroyed. And that's not what happened. She left. She got in her scarlet car, of course, and then she went to New Jersey. And we ended up finding out that Vision had got her like a deed. They got them a deed for a house. And so she stands in the middle of this house that just doesn't even exist. It's just the foundation. And then she flips out, and just her powers just go insane, and they just explode. They just absolutely explode out of nowhere. Whole town just, boom, it's instantly transformed. And instead of a random manifestation of like a weird clone of herself going to get Vision or anything involving Vision, he just like pops out of her body, and it was just like, oh, here he is, here's Vision. And I was like, this brings in so many questions. And so it was a crazy way to end it. It was really well done. And then, of course, once we kind of get back to present day, and it's like, oh, this is what happened. Like, just her grief finally built up after losing her parents, losing her brother, having that extra boost from the Mind Stone, all of that stuff. And I guess the fact that it was technically the Mind Stone was almost a weird fate type of thing, because he ends up having the Mind Stone. And I think that was partly why she was able to recreate him, because he literally became the host of the Mind Stone, which is like the first thing that gave her her power. So she almost already has this weird tied connection to the Mind Stone, which I guess in a weird way that does kind of link them together even closer, because it's like that's what gave her her power, and then he ended up existing because of it as well. So it's an odd sort of twist, like tying of the fate type of thing. But he just basically just comes out of her. Like, she transforms the whole town. We see all the characters and stuff, and everybody, the delivery guy just delivering pizza. And so they just show everybody doing random stuff. And I thought that was cool. And they even had the guy, I don't remember anyone's name except for her. But, like, we just see him walking, so that was it. But the guy who's one of the other neighbors, the guy that got, like, a lot of time during the whole community watch sort of situation, he was putting up a thing for pianos, like piano lessons. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because in the second episode, it was his piano. He was like, that was my piano. Like, they made it fake and then like took it away, and he was like, that was my piano. Like, that was him. So I was like, oh, that's a cool little tie back. Like, he did piano lessons. He played piano in episode 2. Or at least that was, his piano. So I like what they did. And then, just the madness of the ending. So we catch up to everything. She runs out. She's dealing with Agatha, and she just got her kids on the, like, a real weird tight leash. And no joke, I thought this episode potentially was going to end with her, like, killing the kids, because I was like, is she going to, like, rip their heads off or something weird right now? And it's just like, oh, like, your kids who don't exist, and just bam, and then they just died. I was honestly like, I'm not sure what to expect right now, so I wasn't 100% certain. So that was an interesting way to end it. Also, they do reference I forget, Pietro, as she called him, fake Pietro. They don't talk about exactly where he came from, but she does reference like, oh, well, I couldn't do necromancy because your brother's full of holes and in a different continent. So I thought that was interesting. They don't really touch on it. They don't say. I would assume, at least at this point, it's not really the multiverse yet. So it's really hard to say. Like the way that they kind of made it seem is that she didn't pull him from a multiverse. It really was just that nod. And that kind of sucks. I mentioned before, like, as soon as he was introduced, I was like, I really hope this isn't just, like, a nod to the multiverse fact and them kind of playing around, like, we got the actors and stuff. I was hoping it was really that lead-in, especially because of the multiverse thing, which we still have another episode, and he does still exist. So that question is still there, like, what exactly is the deal? So I do wonder how that's going to play out. It probably, at this point, I am kind of thinking, like, oh, it might not be multiverse stuff. I still hope it is, especially with I'm just confused as to how they're going to lead into, Doctor Strange. I'm like, why, how, if that's not the connection, what is? That means something brand new has to pop up last minute to be like, here's the multiverse connection. So I do have a lot of questions. I'm like, if we're one episode away, what is the big connection? And some people have mentioned, I was like, it's especially with us going into what's supposed to be the last episode next week. I'm like, this weird, people have just been throwing it out and saying it. I was like, what if they did do like a surprise episode, like a very special episode of WandaVision, and that was the actual finale? They've just been telling us this whole time it's 9 episodes, and then it's like, surprise, we needed 10, and we don't, which means we wouldn't even get a week in between WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier, which I'm totally fine with. I mean, if it just went from WandaVision straight to Falcon Winter Soldier, I'd be like, yeah, that works for me. That's good. So if we get like a random surprise special episode, that's fine. That would be cool. But the end of this episode, it goes on. Well, technically, that was the end. The whole Agatha thing. She's got the kids. Like, you're the Scarlet Witch. They set the name. She's got a name officially. So that's cool. Chaos magic. I like that. I just think that's a cool term. So it ends, and it's like, final showdown. We'll see how this ends up playing out. We still got Photon in there. We still have Darcy in there technically. Vision has not made it to actually help them out. So he's still good Vision. But it'll be very interesting to see, especially going forward, because now we have all white Vision. And my tiny bit of speculation is that when he goes in, they aren't going to have him stay as white Vision. They're going to kind of combine them, and then he'll look like regular Vision. I don't think they're going to keep him like all white, although that would probably be way easier for them as far as like makeup and all that stuff. And it would be great for, giant nerds like me, where I'm like, oh man, they did, because, he was going in. And like I said, my spidey senses were tingling, so you can check out my actual reaction to it. But Hayward's going in, I'm like, they're about to show something weird. So they're like, all this time we've been trying to get them, powered up, get this thing powered up. And I'm like, interesting. Like, get this thing powered up. And all we needed was a little magic from the source. And I'm like, it has to be Vision, because they're talking about using her magic to bring him back. And it's almost like the Mind Stone itself is getting a little bit of its own magic back, even though technically the Mind Stone isn't even there. But I was like, And then they show their parent. I'm like, it's gonna be Vision, and it's all white Vision, and I was like, they did it. I was very shocked by that, but I was like, man, he died, and they actually brought him back, and so now we have classic looking Vision, who is technically just a manifestation of Wanda's grief, and then we have real Vision, who is classic all white style, like, which is what happened to him in the comics. I don't remember if that was because he died or not, but all white Vision. So that was super cool. It actually looks good too. I was surprised how much I actually like the design of it, where it's just like, I don't know, something about it. I think it just looks really cool. So all white Vision. He obviously doesn't have have the Mind Stone, but I'm gonna go back and look at it really quick. But it looks good. It looks really good. Like, I actually really like the way that they did it. He's got like almost like a tech little diamond piece in his head. And I like the way it looks. I mean, it's all white, but something about it, maybe it's because of the blue lights. It's like, it doesn't just look stark white and generic. Like, something about it is just like, it's all one color, but it just looks, I don't know. It just looks right. I don't know. It's just really interesting. So, and plus his eyes are different too. His eyes are like crystal blue and stuff. I like it. I think it's a cool thing. I don't think they're going to keep him this way, just because it's like, oh, if we have him this way, first off, let's be honest, it's probably harder. He's not this ain't G.I. Joe. He ain't Snake Eyes. It's not like he's the all black character who looks super cool. He's an all white robot dude who's not really that popular. He'll be more popular after the show, but I don't know how many toys they're gonna be able to sell of like all white Vision. So if you're a collector, I highly recommend picking up the all white Vision because I don't think they're gonna be keeping him around permanently. Like I would like to see it personally, just because that would be so cool to me. But I honestly think that they're gonna have them like combine, and then he'll go back to being regular Vision. I don't think he'll have the Mind Stone, which he couldn't because it's a fake Mind Stone. But I think visually, they're gonna go back to him looking like classic Vision. I hope I'm wrong for sure, but there's always I don't know. It depends how much they really trust him. It's like I think it's a great idea. I like seeing it, but there's always that marketing side of everything, especially when it comes to a Disney property. And Marvel was already there, and now they're owned by Disney. And I'm like, I just don't see them keeping it around. Like I just don't. I'm like, they might do it for a little stretch. He might not go back to normal instantly at the end of this, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we'll get like whatever the next Avengers movie, that'll be like the one thing he shows up in, and then they find a way to bring his color back. But great ending, great post credit sequence. I was like, holy crap, they totally did it. Right after adding that mystery in of like, well, she didn't take his body, so what the F is happening right now? They kind of threw in the answer like, oh yeah, he had to lie because of course he's not going to be like, oh yeah, like she has vision and stuff like that. Although it still does bring up the question as to how he was able to track them inside, or specifically he was able to track Vision. So I guess that just ties to, considering she did recreate him from what he actually was, I guess that does kind of make sense, where it's like, okay, she literally made another version of Vision, so what we know about Vision we can use to track this fake version, because at this point they are identical. Well, I guess not at this point, but at one point they were pretty much identical, so it does kind of make sense that they'd be able to track him even though it's a completely made up version. It's still Vision, so it does make a little bit of sense. I'm very curious how things are going to play out now, because now we know Vision on the inside is fake. Real Vision, I'm sure, will instantly just be able to kind of pop right in, no big deal. I assume he'll remember everything. That's kind of the big thing. So I don't know. I'm excited to see how this is going to play out now, because more than anything, I'm just like, there's two Visions. I don't know what that means for this story, and that's the thing that has me most excited. Like, what's going to happen when this fake version of Vision has to deal with his own mortality, where it's like, I don't actually exist. You created me out of nothing, much like the kids. I'm still curious about that as well. So there are a lot of questions, of course. Lots of answers need to be given. We'll see what happens. Maybe there will be a surprise extra episode, but this is a good one, and that was an amazing post-credit sequence. They did all white Vision. I'm very excited. So supposedly next week is our season finale. We shall see, because I'm like, I feel like there's way too many questions that still need to be answered. So we'll see what happens. If they hit us with a surprise 10, that would be mind-blowing. Like, that would be like the craziest thing ever done. So I'm looking forward to whatever happens in the next episode. But of course, we'll love to know your thoughts on this one, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it, and of course, the post-credit sequence. What'd you guys think about that? Wanda's story. You know what? It's hard to tell. Is Vision coming back bigger than the fact that Wanda was always a witch? Like, I don't know which part is cooler to me. So I would love to know your thoughts on that. Like, they did the probability hex. That was so genius. I'm like, dang, that's smart. So I don't know what I like more. Like, Wanda was always a witch, so she always had powers, which once again, Pietro always had powers then, or mutants, non-mutants, questions. There are questions. I would just love to know your thoughts. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.